What's going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke with our DFS and betting preview for the Bank of Utah Championship. Gonna get you ready for all this week's action. But first off, a breakdown of the golf course and what to expect from the Black Desert Resort course. We're gonna go through my custom modeling, my key stats and comps that I'm using to identify my top plays. And then afterwards is where we're gonna focus on some of my exposure with our DFS core plays and some outright bets they've already added to the card. So by the end, you have an idea of how to approach all of your research and a few examples of that in action. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing going. I do have a full course breakdown already up on the channel that will be linked in the description of this video, but this is a resort style course and one where you're going to see a whole bunch of birdies. Last year, Matt McCarty won at -23, but we could see something even better than that winning in 2025. So approach is our number one key stat. We're looking at form over the last 12 and last 24 rounds. If you saw the course breakdown, the middle to even longer irons are utilized a bit more around this sort of track. So there's some extra emphasis from 150 to about 200 yards, but it's a lot of scoring stats that we're looking at the modeling here, whether it be putting stats. Bent grass would be your surface of the week. Birdie or better percentage is the whole way up at number 3 in our custom modeling this week, or even off the tee, having some driving distance to take on the drivable par 4s or some of the reachable par 5s as well is where you're going to separate yourself and get to something like -25. So around the green, not something I'm sleeping on either. The around the green shots on the par 4s or even the par 5s when you miss them in 2 is going to be crucial at a week like this. And for our comp courses, I've got El Cardinal de Monte as my number one comp, and really the only one I'm emphasizing because it's a similar style resort kind of course where you have -20 to -27 winning like we had with Eric Van Rooyen, wide fairways and relatively difficult greens. I would say that's the one defense of this golf course. That's why shots gained putting is at number 2, is because on and around the greens is a little bit more difficulty than with the ball striking. So that's the custom modeling, relatively well-rounded. One thing that you add on top is you need aggressive players. We need players with a birdie or better horsepower to get to something that it's at least -20 to be in the optimal lineup for DFS, or of course to cash us for an outright bet, which speaking of, let's go over to our core plays and outright bets of the week, which at number 1, we've got Kitayama at $9,600. He's 22 to 1 to win, which I sprinkled in on Hard Rock Bet. And for DFS purposes, I don't think Kitayama or Kevin Yu here, who will be our second core play, I don't think either of them are going to be getting all that much ownership. If we take a look at the recent form tab, guys like Noren are number 1 in the field, Michael Thorbjornsen number 3, coming in with scorching hot form with the irons with Thorbjornsen. Alex Noren's been carrying himself with the putter. They're going to get a little bit more attention than guys like a Kitayama or a Yu, but when we go to our modeling for this week, it was some putting stats on bent grass, but birdie or better percentage, taking on those drivable 4s and those par 5s and 2, and then getting up and down when you're around them. That's what these two players excel at. You have Kitayama, who's number 10 on the PGA Tour in birdie or better percentage, Kevin Yu, who's number 13 in that category. Michael Thorbjornsen is the other player towards the top end of the board that is ranking towards the top end of birdie or better percentage, but he might be 25 to 30% owned in contests this week. Guys like Kitayama, Kevin Yu are likely going to be closer to 15% ownership, which in GPPs for DFS purposes does give us an opportunity to get over the field and actually make it count when those players get there, when we're not holding hands with a quarter or even a third of the field. So that's why these are my core plays, the guys that I'm personally going to be getting a lot of my leverage to, because they fit the course, they've got the off the tee distance to take on these par 5s or the drivable par 4s, and with all that room off the tee, the thing that Kitayama and Kevin Yu kind of lack at times can be precision off the tee. They're players that will miss 30 to 40 yards offline because they're some of the longest players that we have in the field. So it's a double-edged sword. That power can be very useful at certain venues, and at other venues where you have to be very precise and keep it in the short stuff, it can really kill those sort of players, and you're not going to see that as much this week. And there are a few lava fields around the course which could be problematic for these two players, but as long as they're keeping it out of the natural area, they're going to be totally fine. And because they're 30-yard wide fairways, they've got an extra 5 to 10-yard buffer on either side as well, it is very difficult to get into some of that longer stuff. We'll take a look at the shots gained metrics on both of these players because we can kind of lump them in here together. Kevin Yu, by the way, got at 27.5 to 1 to win this golf tournament. Over the last 24 rounds, both have been pretty solid ball striking, especially Kitayama, who's gaining both off the tee and on his approach play. In fact, just under 1.5 shots gained per round between those two. And over the last 24 rounds, Kevin Yu has been really good off the tee. In fact, he's one of the best players in the field with his shots gained off the tee per round, slightly losing with that approach play. But what he's been doing over that 24 round stretch is being a top 5, a top 10 birdie maker. Over the last 24 rounds, he's top 10 in birdie or better percentage, top 5 over the last 12 measured rounds as well. And over that last 12 round sample size, if we go ahead and zoom in on these two players, you can see Kevin Yu doing it in a very similar fashion. Solid elsewhere, really good off the tee, but losing a little bit on approach, and Kurt Kitayama still absolutely striping it. So I'd rather see a bunch of strokes putting for these two heading in, if we're being quite honest. But if we take a look at some of the guys that are gaining a whole bunch putting, you've got Matt McNeely's a whole $10,500. He'll probably be 20 to 25% owned. And Alex Norn, he's gaining a half a stroke putting per round, but we already know that he's probably going to be 25 to 30% owned, even higher owned than a Matt McNeely because of some of that form heading in. I'd rather take a shot in the dark on some of these players that have been okay lately, but maybe not the best form that we have in the field because of that lower ownership mark and because they still have that birdie or better upside. So give me those two in contest, $9,600, $9,500. I'll probably have lineups that start with those two together or as one of those two as my first man in. It's worth noting before we go to our last four plays here, if you guys want to download these sheets for all of your research analysis, make sure to check out my Patreon page. So there's a link in the description of the video. The Golf DFS tier is how you get access to all of these. I have these for main slate, also for showdown in rounds 2 through 4. It's got my entire player pool, projections, modeling for the entire field, recent form, event history, which there's only 1 year here, but it's important to have that from 2024, last 12 measured rounds to research every single player that's teeing it up, all over there on the Golf DFS tier. So check it out if you guys haven't already. But next up, we've got Max Homa as a core play, and Max Homa is 44 to 1 to win. That's what I took on Hard Rock Bet. $8,500 I think is an extremely fair price tag, and I've been riding the Max Homa train lately. He's shown me enough to give himself a much higher floor than what he had for a lot of 2024 and 2025. He was missing cuts, and lately his bad weeks are now like T30 and T40. So at $8,500, I think he should truly be a 9K price tag in this kind of field. I think he's earned that over the last month. Like, you can't tell me that a Grillo has been more impressive than a Max Homa has. Like, the shots gained metrics are pretty close on those two, but Max Homa's been doing it with a lot of top end finishes, a little bit more consistency as well than Emiliano Grillo. And we take a look at the shots gained metrics on a Max Homa, he's finally found the putter. And I guess let's start with the last 24 so I can show you why I'm so excited about the last 12 round sample size. The last 24 rounds, really good ball striking, gaining a bunch on approach all of 2025, at least until the last month or so. He had been losing half a stroke to even a stroke per round on approach. One of the worst iron players that we had in the entire world. Him and Sungjae Im, they had the iron bug this year for whatever reason. Went from some of the best iron players in the world to some of the worst. Max Homa, though, got that figured out over the last 24 round sample size. It's why he started to make cuts. It's why he started to get towards the top 15, top 20 at times, but the putter hasn't been there. He's been missing a lot of makeable looks. He's been solid, but not great because of that. Lately, though, the last couple times out, Max Homa started to get the putter hot, and you can see over that sample size, he's gaining 0.42 shots gained putting per round. He's also a slight gainer on approach still, 0.62 shots gained per round. Has to be slightly better with his off-the-tee play, but overall, I can't complain too much about what we're getting from Max Homa. It's been consistent. He's had some of those spike performances mixed in there, and at 44 to 1 in this kind of field, that feels disrespectful. For somebody that's won multiple times on tour, I believe of anyone in the field, he's got the most wins out of anyone. And yeah, just looking at the list, Jason Day, I believe, has slightly more than him, but he's number 2 in that category of anyone that's teeing it up. And at 44 to 1, I mean, you got to ask yourself, is he going to win this 1 out of every 20 times or once out of every 25 times on tour? And I think the answer to that is a resounding yes, especially now that he's gotten that putter working the right direction. It's unlike these top 2 players, his projection is a bit better than some of the other players around him, so he could be a little bit chalkier as a result of that. Maybe closer to the 15 to 18% range is what I'm imagining for large field GPPs. I haven't put together my first set of ownership yet. It is still far too early in the week to have an exact idea on where the field's coming in, but if he's going to be in that 15 to 18% range, I'll still play him in 30% of lineups to get some leverage to the field there. If he gets closer to the 20% range is where maybe he becomes more of a single entry or a smaller field GPP play. And the large field GPPs where you're playing against 50,000 entries, 60, 70,000 at times when we have some of the bigger events in 2026 coming up, you want to really keep in mind that ownership, especially if he's getting closer to 20 to 25%. It's why guys like a Nor and Thor Bjornsson, even though they project wonderfully, they have some of the best form heading into a week like this, I'm kind of sketched out by. So Max Homa is somebody that we're going to have to keep an eye on from that ownership perspective, but as long as it is somewhat in check, I'll be getting there for some exposure. And I think the saving grace here that we might have, going in our favor is a Pearson Cutie. Pearson Cutie's been lighting it up in some of the smaller field, alternate field events that he's been playing in. He's number 8 in the field with recent form ranking. Steven Fisk is coming off the win. He's number 6 in that ranking. Number 9 with a William Mao. We've got enough good recent form guys in this 8K range where maybe Max Homa doesn't get to that 20% plus mark. And if he's in that 15 to 17, 18% range, I'm going to be well over the field. Next up, we got Jesper Svensson as our first value play, and of course, values are guys that are sub $8,000. They're going to help you save some salary in your lineups, and Jesper Svensson is an extremely aggressive player. He's a top 15 birdie or better percentage player on the PGA Tour, has plenty of length to take on the drivable par 4s or those par 5s and 2, and somebody that can deal with some accuracy issues at times, but this golf course, it's not emphasized. It's more about the power than it is about the accuracy. Early in the week, I was kind of discounting the distance factor, but the more and more I looked at the golf course to set up those drivable par 4s, guys like Jesper, because of the elevation factor, can hit 3-wood into par 4s and hold the green. You saw guys like Matt McCarty make eagle on his last round from 3 to 4 feet. That's possible for some of these guys like a Jesper, and even more so possible for guys like Jesper that don't even have to hit driver to get to those green complexes. And at 66 to 1, I went out there and sprinkled him there, but he's more of a large field GPP play to me because Jesper is somebody that always outpaces his placement points when it comes to his actual DraftKings score, because he puts a ton of birdies up. He's top 15 in the category for that reason. He hasn't even had the best 2025, and he still ranks so elite in that category because of the kind of skill set that he has. He's an elite tier bomber. He's also a very skilled putter, and lately the putter's been letting him down. If we go to the last 24 round sample size, you'll see why Jesper has been a little bit inconsistent. He's losing about 0.61 shots gained putting per round, but on this bent grass surface, I think it's why this golf course in particular really sets up well. He's gaining about 0.33 shots gained putting per round on bent, so it's nearly a stroke difference between that 24 round baseline and what he typically does on bent grass, which is massive for this kind of a week, especially at a birdie fest where you've got to get to -20 to -25. You're not going to do it with a cold putter. That's why Max Homa showing the signs of life with the putter over the last few events is so massive for his chances at this event. Next up, we've got ourselves Cam Champ at $7,600. He's 66 to 1 to win this golf tournament as well, and I've been riding the Cam Champ train lately, and he's been posting a lot of birdies. He's also been a little bit more consistent with the form as well, and just like we had for some of the other recent fall series events, this is about birdie or better upside. This is about winning pedigree when you're trying to take outrights down at 66 or 75 to 1. We don't want to be betting scrubs that when they get in under the gun on Sunday are going to choke. Cam Champ does the absolute opposite. When Cam Champ has his good weeks, he capitalizes, and he's up there for the top amount of wins in this kind of field. That's crazy because Cam Champ, everyone thinks of him losing his status. He's hardly even playing on the PGA Tour these days, but when Cam Champ plays on the PGA Tour, over the last 24 rounds, he's a top 10 birdie or better percentage player in this field. Over the last 12 measured rounds, he's a top 5 birdie or better percentage player of all the players that we have in this field. He's got all the length to take on the drivable 4s and those par 5s and 2. And if we go to the shots gained metrics, you'll see why I've been playing him so much recently. Gaining over a stroke per round off the tee over the last 24 rounds. Over the last 12 measured rounds, so if we zoom in a bit more, he's had a couple missed cuts lately, so you wouldn't expect it to be that favorable. Still lighting it up off the tee, and he could be better from fairway and in, but this is a golf course where the ball striking isn't as much of a factor. It is an easier golf course to hit greens, to hit fairways. It is just under a 12 fairway average out of the 14 holes. It's also a 13.7 green regulation average, so these guys aren't having trouble from that aspect. It's more so lighting it up with the putter, having that high birdie percentage I worry about, and then when you're under the gun, when you're betting somebody for an outright, are they not going to piss down their leg on the back nine on Sunday? And I'm not worried about that with guys like a Cam Champ. Also, the ownership worth noting on these two, Jesper, he's not going to be mega chalk because the form has just been okay lately. He's actually slightly losing strokes over his last 12 rounds, much more favorable over the last 24 rounds, but I think that recent form over the last 12 might keep enough people off of him. Same thing with the Cameron Champ. He's only about a neutral over that last 12-round sample size, only gaining 0.12 shots gained per round. That's 24-round sample size is a little bit better, but even then, there are guys around him that are, for example, like a Ricky Castillo, Takumi Kanaya, or a Taylor Montgomery at $7,400. Taylor Montgomery, by the way, these shots gained metrics where he's number 4 in the field in recent form, a lot of them are from the Korn Ferry Tour. So, you can't be taking those as one-to-one with some of the PGA Tour stats that we're comparing to because the field difference and the strength of field is so different from event to event. So yeah, give me some Cam Champ. He's been impressive not only in some of the weaker field events that he's shown up in, but also some of the stronger field events this fall. And then finally, the last play we're going to go through is Aldrich Potgieter at $7,300. I got a terrible outright number at 55 to 1. I got 50 to 1, and then I boosted it 10%, and it's still not even close to what it is on a lot of other books. So if you can get the 66 to 1 or even the 70 to 1 that is available in a few spots, then by all means, I'd be unloading the bank on somebody like Aldrich. I bet Aldrich at courses where you can spray it off the tee, because from fairway in, he is one of the best players that we have on tour. And of course, whenever he's not off the planet off the tee, he's the longest player that we have on the PGA Tour. Those kind of courses are going to be massive for Aldrich. And because we have 30-yard wide fairways, 40 wide yard corridors at the very least, where even if you spray it a bit, you're going to likely be on the short stuff. That's massive for Potgieter, because he's going to be hitting wedge into almost every single hole. It's at elevation as well. It is not an exaggeration to say that into the drivable par fours, he might be hitting irons this week. Like literally, he can hit a driving iron and reach at least one of them, maybe even two of them with something that is less than a 3-wood. He's going to have a massive advantage on those sort of holes. The par 5s might be driver and then like a 7-iron for him in a few cases. The ones that are like 550 yards literally might be driver and then pitching wedge or even degreed wedge into them this week. As long as he's not having a whole bunch of the double and triple bogeys, which has been his problem over the last few months, this is somebody that could win this event, let alone get the top 5 or the top 10 for DFS purposes. And because the form hasn't been great, he's losing about 0.334 shots gained over the last 12 measured rounds. He's not going to be very popular. Not a lot of people are going to want to get to an Aldrich, and I play him when he's low owned and when he's at a high upside golf course like this that has a little bit more room off the tee. So if you go to the shots gained metrics, they're not going to be too favorable on Potgieter. That's part of the reason that he's not going to be super chalky. Still gaining off the tee, gaining with his approach play as well. In fact, he's gaining in 3 of the 4 stat categories, so that looks pretty favorable to me. If we zoom in over the last 12 measured rounds is where it falls off. He's losing in 3 of the 4 categories, only gaining with the flat stick, but this is a birdie fest. We're going to have a hot putter to get the job done, and when he's nearly won before, when it was at the Mexico Open, he got in contention at the Farmers. It's been when he's had the hot putter going. So the fact that he's been gaining over the last couple events, that the rest of the game has been lagging behind, is actually okay with me, because I know the off the tee play is going to be there. If he hits his irons like he has over the last 24 rounds where he's gaining to the field, watch out. This guy is a sleeping giant, both in stature and both as a DFS and betting play as well, and somebody that I'll be using in quite a few lineups. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the DFS and betting preview. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already. Also subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss any of the content to come. That will include our live stream Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, going through everything you need before lock, including a weather report, ownership, and the large field GPPs, but we'll also talk underdog and prize picks props for round 1 of this event. Don't miss that. Subscribe so you guys get notified when we're going live on Wednesday, as well as for rounds 2 through 4. We've got showdown props for Friday through Sunday, all of that covered here on the YouTube channel, as well as all the events throughout the rest of this year and all of 2026. But until next time, guys, best of luck with everything that you're entering. Hope to see a lot of your names towards the top end of the GPPs. It's cash out an outright or two, try and add some money to the bankroll and have ourselves a week. But other than that, go ahead and comment down below as well who you've got winning this golf tournament. And if you get the winner first, it'll be on a first come, first serve basis. You'll win a free month access to my Patreon page. On there, of course, is where you can get the projections that we used throughout this video. It's got all my projections, modeling my entire player pool, all the bets on there and I'm taking for this golf tournament, and all the underdog and prize picks content that I'm doing as well. That includes stat averages for this golf course, also for rounds 2 through 4. We also go through all my underdog and prize picks exposure over there, the reasoning behind it, the kind of golf course lean that we're expecting for every single day. All yours for free if you go ahead and give me the correct winner. But that's all I've got, guys. I appreciate your support on the channel. Check out the Patreon if you guys haven't already for all the content that I have, and I'll see you guys for that live stream on Wednesday.